Hello, welcome to Craft of the Draft, brought to you by getdrafted.com.au, Australia's #1 selection for local footy talent. Post your profile now, get noticed, get challenged, getdrafted.com.au. And we've got a grand final special on today's episode, previewing the CTL Grand Final coming up this weekend. On Sunday, we've got the WAFL Colts Grand Final. We recap the SANFL under-18s, but starting off at the top, we had some exclusives with some of the top lead names from Eastern Rangers and Sandringham Dragons.
Yeah, we'll hear from Sandringham Dragons coach Rob Harding ahead of their fourth consecutive grand final, gunning for a four-peat. The Sandringham Dragons, so we'll dissect whether they're likely to get that or not. And the Eastern Rangers going for their first premiership since 2013. Heard from their talent lead, Danny Ryan, about a couple of key storylines. So that will be an enticing matchup. Cannot wait for Saturday.
All that plus plenty more coming up on this episode. It is grand final week in the Colts Talent League, Eastern Rangers versus Sandringham Dragons. The Dragons looking for their fourth straight flag. We've also got a rematch of the 2023 final, which is a very nice contest at Icon Park. And we return there this Saturday for a contest that will see two teams who are in ripping form, have differing results, but plenty positives to come out of the prelims. Where do you want to start with this week's matchup?
Yeah, well, we'll start with the Dragons, like you said, chasing their fourth straight flag, which has only been done once in the Coates League before by the Northern Knights during the 1990s. But it's probably a different year a little bit for the Sandringham Dragons. They don't necessarily have the top-end talent that they have in previous years.
Yeah.
Like, there's every chance that they're going to have one name read out on the first night of the AFL draft, and he won't be playing on Saturday due to a PCL injury, Archie Ludowick. So it's quite different, and you could argue that they were largely outplayed for big parts of their preliminary final, but were just able to put it on the scoreboard against the Gippsland Power. But we know they're a powerhouse come September, so they'll be a very difficult team to beat, and players like Jack Dalton, Kai Fincher, and Rory Ryder in some ripping form.
Yeah, I think, like as you said, they probably don't have that pointy end skewed squad, but what they do have, and what they probably always do have, is great depth and great spread this year, which is always very exciting. As you mentioned, a lot of their leaders, particularly over the weekend, stood up. Wright, Bammett, Fincher in particular, which has got them humming into another grand final decider. Rob Harding's been absolutely wrapped with what he's seeing with some of the guys. And I think what we've also been able to see from them is their bottom ages stepping up too. Gus Texera on the weekend was absolutely fantastic. Archie Butler's one of the more exciting 2026 prospects coming through. So there is a lot of excitement and a lot of, energy from that group, just given when you get those bottom ages as well. Spruiking up. So do you want to hear from, because we do actually have some audio from Rob, and we'll get to Danny Ryan as well from the Eastern Rangers. So some COTD exclusives, and let's hear from Rob about the faith in that bottom age crop that he has.
Gus Texera, bottom major, he's been unbelievable, and he's a bottom major. He's playing in our midfield. He's held his spot there, and he's just so strong in the contest. We played him a bit wing earlier in the year. We really liked him on the wing, and I thought potentially while we were looking for wingmen through the year that might be the spot he ends up in. But he's just bullied his way into being an inside midfielder with us, which we love. And strong in the contest. He transitions out really well. At times plays a similar role as Sash Levine, and has understood that, executed that really well. So he's a high quality prospect for next year. We're bullish on next year's group, clearly. We think there's a bit of strength there, and the three key backs, Texera, Butler, Jack Circuit. I think we're playing 7 bottom majors in our team at the moment. The last couple of years since I've been here, we've only ever played 3 in the finals. So I think that just shows the strength we see in next year's group.
That's true. Yeah, well, it is interesting to note that last statistic that Rob reeled off there, that they have 7 bottom majors compared to 3, because you look at Taj Houghton, he didn't get a game for Sandringham as a bottom major in their premiership in 2023, I believe it was, and he was fit and available for selection. But that's just the strength that Sandy's always had. So clearly there is a lot of strength in the bottom ages. Rob touched on 3 bottom-aged key defenders. So that's Hank Thomas, Tyson Bradley, and Jasper Norbergen, and they all complement each other well with a blend of athleticism and aerial ability. And they've basically had first dibs on that spot after really strong pre-seasons all throughout the year in between schoolboy footy. So they'll have big roles to play, particularly with the likes of Sully Roby and Ollie Greaves able to rest forward and be really dangerous, difficult one-on-one matchups for the Eastern Rangers.
Yeah, and you talk about what the Rangers can do as some of their kind of flexibility and what Rob was saying with Gus Teixeira and the versatility that he's been bringing and that shape-shifting squad they've had in being able to throw some kids around. But no moving of the magnet has probably been more profound for Sandringham than what Rory Wright's now doing down back.
Yeah.
What we saw on the weekend in particular was one of his best performances of the year, and he's doing it at such an important part of the season, as we've spoken about over the last month, and what finals footy can do for a player and a prospect who's really still trying to cement their case as a bona fide prospect in the eyes of recruiters.
I think I had a chat to someone after his quarterfinal game, and they said that's probably as well as they've seen Rory Wright play all season, because he was very, very good in that game, and then he took it to another level on Saturday with that offensive firepower out of the back line. But he's got so many traits which Rob Harding has really enjoyed seeing. So let's have a listen to what in particular has been impressive about his game.
I always say I'm reticent to make player comparisons, but the only comparison I've got for Rory Wright is Luke Hodge. And I don't say that lightly because that's one of the greats, but in terms of Luke Hodge at half-back, reading the play, getting to the right spot, directing teammates, setting everything up, kicking the ball well, putting himself in the hole when needed, that's Rory Wright.
Yeah.
So, I just think he's an AFL player, really. And, when teams get him in, he's going to be... they're going to be pretty impressed by what he's able to do straight away.
Well, Luke Hodge as a comparison is pretty nice, particularly when, as Rob said, he doesn't hand too many around. But if he is, he's going to hand out arguably one of the best players the game's seen this century. As we mentioned, some of the other leaders for the Dragons have really stood tall at the pointy end of their campaign, led by obviously Xavier Bammett and Kai Fincher, another one who, similar to Wright, has been finding the best football at the really important time of his year. Have you kind of seen him? Because obviously Saints fans don't always get too many academy kids to look at coming through the draft, but he's going to be one that's going to be of great focus for them. Yeah,
I think so. I was really surprised he didn't get a national combine invite. He got a state combine invite, and I think he's sort of proven that he is towards the pointier end, whether that's late in the first round or early in the second round, but he's been really impressive. The other really positive thing about Sandy has been their ability to just unveil some sort of lesser heralded lights. Some players like Ollie Griffin was really good on the weekend. Willis Reed, he's been kicking goals for fun up forward as well. And Sasha Levine is a really great role player through that midfield. But Fincher probably leads the charge, in particular in the engine room now alongside Dalton. And that versatility has been so important for him. And it's proven a masterstroke move from Rob Harding. So let's hear what specifically has been impressive about his midfield shift.
His ball use off half-back, and we've been able to showcase Kai as that big, strong midfielder, and he's got great speed and agility, Kai. So he is building week on week, and he's ability to come forward out of contest and stoppage, and which is more the AFL style. And you can see just the growth in his game over these last few weeks. So it's been a great little period for him, and he's a strong tackler. He takes good marks ahead of the ball. Another one who's been able to hit the scoreboard a little bit in a couple of games for us. Kai's just showing a really well-rounded game this time of year.
And then, as we touched on, Jack Dalton as well, really impressive. We talked about him off the top of the show, Mitch, but what form he's come into. And I think the really impressive thing that I had a chat to Rob about was just that he's probably increased his composure with ball in hand. So we know he's always had that really high-end running power. He studied Lachie Neale during his time away from footy as a result of an arm injury, and now the kicking, which had been questioned, has seen a bit of an improvement, and we know he's got those natural ball winning tendencies as well. So they're going to be the players that are going to really lead the way for the Sandringham Dragons. We'll have a look at some key matchups in a second, but we'll segue into some Eastern Rangers players that have been really impressive. And for me, the big storyline about the Eastern Rangers making the grand final, A, they've won their 3 finals so clinically and haven't been challenged, but B, it's just that there's so many storylines and so many players who have overcome adversity. When you look through the list, Lockie Doverston missing the AFL Academy, now he's the leading small forward in the crop. Xavier Taylor comes into the year as basically an anonymous defender. Now he's a top 10 prospect. Marcus Krasnodamskis, Rod Ali were last year playing high-end basketball. Now they're draft prospects. Mitch Buckland is coming off 3 ACL injuries, has played the last 5 or 6 games. Zach Antonellos, a bottom major, wasn't expected to be seen this year with a syndesmosis injury, but now he's established his role in the side. Andy Barker, overlooked for Vic Metro under 16 selection. Now he's Eastern Rangers captain, played 3 games for Vic Metro this year. Bailey Lloyd overcoming wrist injuries to get back sooner than expected. Like, the list goes on and on and on, and they've really come together and gelled well at the right time of the year.
There's storylines everywhere, which is great, and if they go the distance, it's going to be great to reflect on some of the journeys for some of these kids. And if they don't, there's still going to be draft night, which is going to be quite fascinating for a number of guys who are right at the pointy end. When you talk about Greaves, Doverston, Taylor, and now Roby, and Taylor again. So it's a really nice squad, and they've, like you said, they've really come together, and it's really gelling in this finals campaign that's seen them kind of cruise through a few opponents and did so against the Rebels on the weekend to book another grand final spot. Got to chat to Danny Ryan, their talent lead, and he was obviously quite happy with obviously the squad they've got, but he also spoke about the difficulty they had in trying to actually pick a 22, just given how deep they bat.
Yeah, she's been terrific for the program and fantastic for the boys coming through. Like, she's got that ability to set the players up in their roles and make it very, very clear on what their role is that week. And we'll do a lot of work in the background for our matchups, for our backs, to sort of see where they're lining up or playing against on the weekend. So I just feel like, she really makes the players think about the game of footy. I think she sets them up and backs them in, and they go out there with a lot of confidence that they've done the work through the week. So, I just feel like the boys are playing, a little bit playing for her, in that sense. I think there's a lot of respect there from our playing group towards LJ and its mutual back. So I think it's a really good relationship that she's built with the players, and there's a lot of faith there. I can't help but keep thinking of those kids this week that have played a huge part in our program this year that won't be a part of the weekend. And it's a bit like draft night, where you get excited for boys who get drafted and the girls who get drafted, but then there's a number of people that don't get drafted, and you're feeling for them. And I think that's probably where my thoughts are at the moment. I've got that mixed emotions this week because, I'm really happy for the 23 players that are going to run out for our boys and girls this weekend, but there's another 10 to 15 that have played 10 or 12 games and have played really good footy who are going to miss out. But I think that's the byproduct, isn't it, of having a strong team and making grand finals. So there's going to be a lot of kids that are going to miss out. But hopefully for a lot of those bottom age players that they've got an opportunity next year to kick on and get that opportunity. And then on top of that, for our 18-year-olds that are leaving our program, and you mentioned Charlie, hopefully he can get an opportunity at a PFL program and his football can continue.
Yep.
But, it's a bit of it's a funny one. It's a mixed emotions, that's for sure, this week.
If we just continue looking back on the performance from some of the Rangers boys on the weekend, Ollie Greaves put in an absolute monster performance. We talked about Sully Roby and what he did a couple of weeks ago, and that pretty much rivals it with 35 touches and 4 goals as a combative midfield bull who can go forward and be that damaging scoring threat.
Yeah, he was very good on the weekend. He really turned it on, particularly for a 15-minute period in the third quarter where he kicked goals and every time he touched the footy, something was happening. So, yeah, that was really fun to watch. And it was probably a performance he needed in some ways, just to remind everyone of his talents since coming back from Vic Metro and Caulfield Grammar duties. He's probably been a little bit quieter. He has been showing a little bit more forward, to be fair, rather than playing in the midfield. But that's, like you said, they're monster numbers that really showcase what he's got with his strength and power. So, really impressive from him. And Sully Roby continued on that really strong form. I thought he started the game really well, set the tone when his team needed him to. And, playing as that half forward who's able to go into the midfield, he just added another chapter to his growing reputation in the talent industry.
Can't not mention Lockie Doverston, 9th game of 16 touches and 2 goals at the very least for him. And I think a few of them he might have had 4 goals and 11 touches, and he just missed out on a couple. So that's a stellar run for him this year, and that's why he's so highly rated. And Krasnodamskis, I know you're better at pronouncing that one than I am, but was solid once more against an overager as well in Flynn Penry. So that ruck battle, which we'll preview in a second. But here's what Danny Ryan had to say about kind of the squad as a whole, and even some of their bottom age boys and what they've kind of put forward in their kind of push for selection this year.
we certainly thought we had a solid group. We probably didn't expect the spiky performances
Yep.
at the back end of the year by majority of our squad.
Yep.
It was really pleasing that our top end talent sort of all started the year off well, and the ones that were sort of a little bit sluggish in the back end or middle part of the year have actually started to hit some form as well now. And I think our bottom 8 players have certainly come along a lot quicker than what we expected. So, yeah, probably a little bit. We weren't sure where we sat at the start of the year, but as the year went on, it sort of painted a picture that we're probably going to be thereabouts at the back end of the year. And I've hit some really good form at the right time. So, it's just a little bit of a surprise, but not a major shock, I don't think. A lot of kudos goes out to our recruiters who are out there still watching games of footy, and for Sully Roby and Marcus Kraz to be picked up halfway through the year like they were, and even for Rod Ali, who is a 19-year-old, we got him in. So I feel like a lot of praise has to go to our recruiters and who are out there still watching and finding these players for us. And then on top of that, just the development that our coaches have been able to bring in. And I think the really strong form across the board has helped elevate everyone on our list, I think. And we're certainly excited about that.
Yeah, so they've definitely had a lot of players that have developed across the course of the season. And as you touched on before, Marcus Krasnodemskis, one of those. We'll move into our matchups now. And he's got a really enticing matchup against Julian Galbally and Miles Tyra. And he's coming off a really strong fortnight of form, is Marcus Krasnodemskis. We know he probably got the better of Cooper Duff-Tytler a couple of weeks ago and was the best ruck on the day in that game. And then going up against Flynn Penry would have been a great challenge for him. Much more mature bodied is Flynn Penry, and also got on top of him the last time the two teams played each other. But this time, although Flynn Penry probably won it from a raw hit-outs, raw numbers point of view, Krasnodemskis' presence around the ground was really, really impressive. And he'll again have a really tough challenge against another overager in Julian Galbally and a really mature body in Miles Tyra, who is coming off a strong game himself against Jonah Walker in the ruck for Gippsland, where he was able to show his ability to get involved, take some marks around the ground, push forward, kicked a couple of goals. I thought it was a game that Miles Tyra needed to have.
Yeah, he's showed he's really able to stretch his opponent. Like if you're coming up against Miles Tyra, you really got to be able to get back, work hard behind the ball as much as you have to in the middle of the ground. So that's going to be quite enticing, and that's where obviously the contested ball game will start in the ruck. But the second it hits the deck, Sally Roby or Kai Fincher, loose ball there, it could be a bit of an absolute crash if those two big bodies go at it. So that's going to be massive. Obviously, Sasha Levine and Ollie Greaves, another matchup that we're kind of enticed by in midfield. So there's going to be some nice little head-to-heads happening in the engine room this weekend. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, we'll start with Sully Roby against Kai Fincher. Neither of those you would have expected to be playing in the midfield in a CTL Grand Final for different reasons. But hopefully we do get to see Sully Roby exposed to some midfield minutes in this Grand Final. I'm sure we will, and he'll go in there and inject some life. And they're the two big boys, the two strong frames, both athletic, powerful, tough, skillful. So if they do start on each other at stoppage, they'll both want to take bragging rights, and they'll both be going one way, and that's direct towards goals. So that'll be a fun one to watch. And then Ollie Greaves is coming off a really big game, but Sasha Levine played a really disciplined role against the Gippsland power, and is really important with his 2-ray running in the midfield. So don't be surprised to see him play almost a bit of a defensive midfielder role and try and limit the impact of some of Eastern's key playmakers, including Ollie Greaves. He's certainly got the body size and strength and physicality to match it with a player of Greaves' stature.
One potential matchup that I think could be a big barometer, just given the spark they bring for both of their sides. At one end of the field will be Archie Butler for Sandy, and potentially how he goes against Xavier Taylor this year. It'll be a great matchup for him, just given he's a bottom major and about to hit his draft year. But for Xavier Taylor as well, the energy that he can bring from a defensive role as well. Not always the case for a player who can be that spark plug, but that's certainly going to be an exciting one if they go head-to-head. Yeah,
absolutely. They went head-to-head the last time these two teams played, and Archie Butler finished with the 2 goals. They probably split the chocolates, but Xavier Taylor's had probably a bit more of a tendency for the most part to play on some of the taller types, throughout 2025, but with Archie Ludowick missing and Sandy not necessarily having that spearhead outside of the resting ruck inside 50, it'd be great to see him finish the year and close down a smaller, speedy type like Butler again. We know he did it against Wes Wally at the National Championships, and obviously, like you say, he's got that offensive hybrid style defensive element to his game as well, does Xavier Taylor. So that does promise to be an enticing matchup. We know Archie Butler only needs 5 or 6 touches and he'll probably kick a couple of goals because he does make the most of his opportunities. Very, very skillful indeed.
Give us your tip.
My tip's Eastern Rangers by 3 goals. I think they're as well placed as anyone has been across the last 4 years to challenge Sandy for that cup with the level of top end talent, the depth, and yeah, like we talked about, you only need to sometimes look at the players who are missing, Charlie Sizer, Hunter Ryan types, to realise how strong that squad must be. And that gives me confidence to, tip Eastern Rangers. Dangerous, though, tipping against Sandy. Have you got a tip? Yeah,
I'll take the Rangers. I think it might be a shorter margin than 3 goals as well. Who do you think for best on?
I'll give best on to Sully Roby to continue the meteoric rise.
I don't mind that. Yeah, him or Doveston, so maybe I'll go Lockie Doveston for best on. Cool.
Hey guys, just dropping in to remind you that this podcast is brought to you by getdrafted.com.au, Australia's #1 selection for local footy talent. If you're a player looking for your next adventure, simply create a profile with your details and connect with a local club that's looking for a player like you. Getdrafted.com.au can set you up with a new club, new teammates, a new state, and even a new job. Talk about a game-changing career move. It's fast, easy, and built for your ultimate footy journey. Find your next club now at getdrafted.com.au.
All right, we've got 2 more grand finals to discuss. We'll preview the WAFL to start. We've got South Fremantle playing Claremont Optus Stadium Sunday afternoon out west. I'll probably want to actually start with the Tigers, just given their side that's rolling in off a prelim win over East Fremantle. They've had a strong run through. Obviously, East's falling to South Fremantle a couple of weeks ago and then going out again to Claremont, who were again led by some of their, WA State League players or top names. Charlie Banfield has had a really good final series, it seems, to kind of just remind, I think, people how well his season that he's put together. He was one of WA's best in their national championships run, and for Claremont, he takes his game to a new level. So that's been fantastic to see. And bottom major ruckman Benji Van Rooyen was another big tick for them in that win over the Sharks. Where do you want to start with this game and I guess how we see it unfolding?
Well, Cody Curtin will be an interesting one.
Yeah.
Only because he'll be wanting to bounce back. He's not often kept quiet. He kicked the one goal in the prelim final wins. So that's one element that I'm looking forward to seeing. He'll want to finish his junior career on a high. And yeah, we know that tools don't get any smaller in finals. And he's someone who will be the real anchor point, and expect him to bounce back with a couple of goals. We know that, as recently as a couple of weeks ago, he kicked 5 goals on Lockie Carpenter and has been in very strong form all year. So, he's one that Claremont will need to step up and kick a few goals. I think I see South Fremantle as favourites in this game. Yeah,
it's going to be hard for me to really I want to tip them.
Yeah.
But the preparation that they have for this is really difficult. When you have a bye to end the season, then you have a bye because you finished on top. You do handle East Fremantle with some comfort. Then you have another break for the prelim week, and then you're coming into grand final week. So that's hard. Usually, for some clubs, and talking maybe AFL level, that you might have one game in 3 weeks, but one game in 4 weeks might be too much, and the preparation can be a bit tricky. In saying that, though, it's a long season for a lot of these kids, and maybe that extra break could actually be a difference maker. It's actually kind of hard to tell if it works in their favour or not. The last time they played, there was a kick in it and Claremont won. You'd think someone like Toby Wan, who's carrying some great form into the deep part of this season, took out the Jack Clark medal along with Tommy Grills on Monday night for the Sandover medal count. Lucas Robinson was a big performer in their win over the Sharks recently, and it's going to be quite fascinating to see who kind of steps up for them, and I'd like to see Fred Rodriguez potentially lead them as well to a win on Sunday. But you're right, I think Cody Curtin could be the difference maker. Ryder Luke's another one, obviously less focus on him, but I'd love to see him kind of bring some of that early season form that he had for the Dogs.
Fremantle Next Generation Academy prospect who, knows where the big sticks are. But Fred Rodriguez is, I'm glad you touched on, he's probably the other one that, they've been the 1-2 punch, Toby Wine and Fred Rodriguez throughout the year. But Fred's probably plateaued a little bit in terms of where people think he's going to end up in the AFL draft, seen as more of a mid-range selection now, where he's seen as a top 20 selection coming into the season. So performing on the big stage would do his would strengthen his reputation clearly and just add a final frontier to his junior career.
Yeah, I think things have gone a little quiet on Fred, and I'd love him to just kind of send a reminder about the pedigree and standing that he had early into the season. Tip for this one?
Tip is South Fremantle by 2 goals.
I'm going to go Claremont. And I think one of the Banfield boys will take out best on. I don't know which one. I kind of like Harper, and he's had some good games this year as a bottom major, and he might just be the one for the Tigers.
Yeah.
Rolling into more of a recap, we had the SANFL Under-18s Grand Final over the weekend. Sturt cruising by West Adelaide by the tune of almost 10 goals. Blake Threadgold taking out the best field honours. I think he had 12 marks for his 14 touches and rock solid down back. I think you look at the probably look at the main KPIs in midfield, and I think a lot of them were won with some comfort by the Bloods. But once they got the ball forward, 2 goals, 12, 14% scoring accuracy. And then you've got Threadgold and Darlitz combining for, I think it would have been 26 marks. So struggling to get the ball inside 50 with some accuracy, and then also obviously convert that to score. So that was always going to be an uphill battle playing that style of football and with that result. So, but more credit to the Double Blues more than anything. I think they had dominated the marks count, had more tackles with 70 more possessions on the day, and it was a great kind of win for Sturt. Unfortunately, doing it without Harley Barker, but it's a nice win overall, and to cap off a nice season for the Double Blues.
Absolutely. I think Blake Threadgold's the one that we really have to talk about, because in a draft class where there isn't too many key backs, as we've talked about a lot, Blake Threadgold's one whose name could get read out a little bit higher than people expect. He only played 1 game at the Under-18s National Championships due to injury. I think if South Australia's games had fallen a little bit later in the sort of fixturing, then he would have been able to play a little bit more, but unfortunately was absent with injury. But that intercepting, that's strong marking overhead, and his ability to read the ball coming in, and he's a great lockdown player. So he's got the traits you want as a key defender, and he certainly performed on the day, and I think he's one that isn't getting the external attention, but is certainly one that could surprise with where he ends up on draft night. And Jet Darlitz, bit more of the same with his run and gun overlap handball, multiple possessions in a chain, and was able to advance his team forward really effectively. Yeah,
another SA squad member, Cal Matthews-Hampton, had double digits marks as well. And then you add in 2 under-16s boys in Taj Garrett and Harvey Chapman, who we know from their under-16s campaign were already looking like nice names for the 2027 draft crop. But to have the performances they did in an under-18s season decider, I think Taj Garrett had 25 touches, 12 marks, and Harvey Chapman, another defender, for Sturt, 9 marks for his 21 touches. So some nice names for the next couple of years on top of what they were able to provide this year. So that's the SANFL Under-18s season wrapped. Like I said, we'll have the Colts Talent League and WAFL levels wrapped up well this week, and then it's pretty much done for footy. We'll have the Futures Stars game Grand Final day next Saturday, so a little preview and then review to come on that in the next couple of weeks. Always a kind of a fun contest, and hopefully the squads are just about at full strength. I know there's a couple out, but that'll be a nice one. What else do we have? Because on zerohanger.com we've launched our new draft hub, so you can find our power rankings, the draft order, latest news, club by club draft news, plenty of video content as well from our shows, plus some extra stuff. Mock drafts not far away either.
No, so plenty of mock drafts. I think we're going to do a few of those in the lead up to November. Plenty of feature stories as well on different prospects. Looking forward to the AFL Draft Combine, which will give us the opportunity to capture some content, and we'll also cast our minds back to last year's draft once the AFL season's over. Obviously, the rising star will be announced at the Brownlow on Monday, so that'll be interesting to see. But we'll go through and have a bit of a dissection of how those players have gone. at some stage in their first year in the
Who's
AFL system.
Who's your tip for the Rising Star?
Who
Who do you think wins, and who do you like to see win?
I'd love to see Archie Roberts win. I think there is a bias against giving it to a second-year player. It will be Murphy Reid, I think.
I think it should be Levi Ashcroft, but I think it will be Murphy Reid.
Yeah.
And if I'd like to see, maybe Dan Curtin. But I think it's kind of funny. I think Ashcroft probably deserves it, but I'm also kind of happy to see Murphy Reid win it as well.
Yeah.
Just given the role he's played for Fremantle this year. We'll have our monthly rankings coming through. Heaps of prospect profiles coming up, both on zerohanger.com and on Craft the Drafts. And our video platforms on YouTube as well on Zero Hanger. Plenty to come, even though we've just got the Future Stars game and some Grand Final games this weekend. So stay tuned on our Instagram, on YouTube, and on zerohanger.com.